Okay, so with that, we're going to move on to item 6, the New Earth contract. Did everyone have a chance to read over the contract?
Can I just start by talking about the funding real quick? And first of all, apologizing for the mistake I made in the email. I didn't post this on the board, board docs for the board meeting agenda. So, that department did. I don't recall a discussion about it being funded by Measure K. And when I went back to confirm that with somebody, they reminded me of a conversation we did have where it wanted to be funded by one of the other one-time funds like ELOP or something like that. There was all these different funds that we were talking about. A lot of them were for social and emotional counseling and stuff like that. So I remembered the conversation. Yeah, we had about maybe we can put it into one of those funds. And I guess what happened, and I'm not really clear, is that because those funds weren't available yet and weren't official yet, it was, let's do a temporary placeholder with Measure K with the plan to move it over into a more appropriate fund when we got there. I wish the description on the board agenda would have said all that. It would have made things a lot simpler, but for some reason it did not. So, my apologies because I wasn't aware of what was going on there, but that's kind of the story there. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not going to end up in Measure K. It's going to end up somewhere else.
So has the first payment been made?
I'd have to check, but even if it is, you just do budget transfers or fund transfers later on in the year. That's kind of what we do with a lot of Measure K stuff anyway, when it all kind of rolls down to the bottom at the end of the year.
Okay. Julie, can you mute yourself, please?
I got it.
Okay, thank you. So what I had read from this is the first year will be $600,000. The second year will be 1.5 plus facilities. And then there was the mention of a third year, which had no monetary amount attached. And it said it would be determined by the number of students and the number of hours put in. It's okay, Julie. So am I understanding that correctly?
I think we'd have to ask somebody who knows the contract. I was not part of that contract.
Okay.
I requested that someone else might be available to assist us this evening on this, and I didn't get any available takers.
But the contract is posted on the website. I mean, you can go and find the contract. So I guess I'm confused. I mean,
well, it sounded like the question was about an interpretation of the contract.
Yeah,
or a third year.
The contract has a lot of stuff, but there aren't a lot of particulars in certain categories. And so I think somebody knowing that would be able to answer those questions. So nothing is directed towards you, Robert.
No, it's fine. I'm not worried about it.
It is a concern. It's been brought up at board meetings. It was brought up at the town hall. The rep from New Earth was at the town hall. And I think there's a lot of concerns here. So
it's a lot of money, yeah.
It is a lot of money. And like I had said before, the fact that reopening Culver Park could conceivably be $374,000. And in the first year with New Earth, we're already committed to spending more than that is definitely concerning. And Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe Debbie too, because I remember this from the last time, but if it's only serving about 20 students at the moment, the contract says up to 400. So if the third year says that it will be based on the number of students, then if we're paying for up to 400 for the first year and we're only serving about 20, there is a huge disconnect.
I think that's a very valid concern.
So I'll take questions or
and
comments.
I'd be happy to take back to cabinet whatever you would like me to take back to cabinet. So
okay, I can that, I can type it up, but yeah, that is the first thing that jumped out to me.
It seems like that should be, yeah.
Well, also the fact that the estimate for the second year is double the first year. I don't see how this program would serve 800 students by the second year, especially if it's serving 20 or so now. So, all right, Kathy, then Carolyn, then Debbie, then Seth, Melissa, I'll take comments after the committee.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions and concerns, so I'm going to be Robert. I think that's a great idea. I don't think we have oversight over this. I guess I'm not sure why this didn't come to CBAC, but that's in our rearview mirror. So I think a productive way to lead this discussion is to ask Robert to take these back to the cabinet.
Concerns, questions, anything?
Exactly. So I work at and I'm sorry my camera's not on. I'm not in good Wi-Fi, but I work at the high school and we get a list of students being called into Newark. Now, my first concern is that list did not start until, I'm going to be conservative, and we're in March. I'm going to say at the end of January, we started getting a list of students being called to Newark. So I'm not clear what was happening from September to January. Every day we get a list, or every other day, and it's about 10 kids on the list. We absolutely, this is a group that is primarily accustomed to working with very, what we've talked about as at-promise youth. The old term is at-risk youth. We don't have 400 at-risk youth at that level at our high school. And just, I'm going to give a little background. I worked in juvenile justice. I worked in a prison, in a boys' prison. I've worked in a community school. We don't have 400 at-risk students or at-promise students at the high school that are in line with what New Earth is. Yeah, the middle school as well. I agree. It's still not 400. To what they advertise. I'm not saying that they can't do good work with students that aren't at that level yet. And that's the goal, right? Get them before they get to the level where they're going and committing crimes and ending up in juvenile facilities. We don't want that. I very much feel that at the middle school and high school, if we spent $1.6 million on a counseling team that wasn't A through Z counselors. And when I say A through Z for people who aren't at the high school, this means our counselors are A through Z. They have the alphabet, A through F, F through, M. If we had a team of counselors that were there for our at-risk students, that could meet with them, that could talk to them, that could build a relationship with them, I'm just kind of curious why that conversation didn't happen. And finally, and this is really, 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 Robert, what I want to hear, and I really want to report on this. I want the numbers of students being seen. I want a clear definition based on New Earth's contract. So New Earth says we will counsel, we will do, restorative circles, we will do X, Y, Z. I want numbers of students that are meeting New Earth in those capacities specifically. So kids are called out of class, but we don't know what's going on. Are they counseled? Are they in a group? Are they making art or poetry? Because that's also what New Earth does. And I also want data on if those students are attending class at the high school, because we have a big problem with students not attending class, which is causing some of our on-campus altercations. So I want to see if these students that New Earth is working with, what is their attendance data? And I think that's a fair ask, because we measure effectiveness by what are we asking you to do? And we are asking you to improve the outcomes for these students. So if they're not being improved, then the position is not working. And are we in fact already tied into this $1.6 million contract? So that's my feedback.
Thank you, Kathy. Carolyn and Debbie, then Seth. Carolyn, you're muted.
Thank you. It seems to me if they're not delivering what they basically said they would do in the contract, that we could break the contract. My other question is that I see that we did pay out in one lump sum the $600,000. I don't know if it was in December or January. It's in the last month or two. So Robert, my question is, if it was a charge to Measure K, where was the $600,000 charged?
I think it was charged to the Measure K budget, and it's going to get transferred into something else as soon as someone makes that decision.
And who makes that decision?
That'll be a cabinet level decision. Or
So,
technically everything goes through the board, but it'll be a cabinet level decision that's brought to the board.
but they could decide to keep it as Measure K. I mean, they have that authority.
My recommendation will be not to.
But okay, but the bottom line is for right now, it's been charged to Measure K, and they could, if they wanted to, keep. Have we made any more payments beyond the 600,000 to New Earth?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, then Seth. Ray, I'm gonna take Trisha right before you because I think we do committee comments first. So sorry to jump out of order. So it'll be Debbie, then Seth, then Trisha, then Ray.
Thank you, Mark. So my concern about this company isn't really which fund we're taking out their payments from. My concern about the company is that it wasn't properly vetted before we contracted with them. For all intents and purposes, everybody that I have spoken to have told me that they are not delivering on the terms of their own contract, that they're not providing the services that they are contracted to provide. Yet we paid them $600,000 for something that we can't prove has been successful in any way, shape, or form. There's no data to say that any of the things that they have done, and believe me, I've been told that they cancel sessions with students, that they don't have people showing up for them, and that students are not getting complete services that they're supposed to. But I'd like to see the data that supports that they've made any difference whatsoever for the $600,000 that we have paid them. The idea that they don't have enough staff to service 20, and we contracted with them to allegedly serve 800 students in their second year and agreed to pay them $1.5 million to do that when they haven't been able to prove themselves in the first year. It's an obscene amount of money by any consideration to pay for people that have not been vetted and have not done the job they were hired to do. So yes, there are provisions in the contract that allow us to cancel. Either side could cancel and the contract would be voided. The idea is, when are we going to do that? Because we need to look at this objectively. And this is a contract that we need to get out of. Otherwise, we're throwing good money after bad. And it makes no sense to continue with this company when we can put this money into hiring counselors that will be permanent additions to our staff. So that's all I'll say for now.
Thank you, Debbie. Seth, then Trisha.
All right, so at our last meeting, I was to put it out there, I would love this contract to be canceled yesterday. So at our last meeting, Debbie put forward that New Earth is a 1-star rating on Charity Navigator. So I looked at that and I went deeper into their 990s, which is the tax form that nonprofits need to file. The most recent data they had available was 2019. So looking through their 2018 990 and their 2019 990, here is some concerning information I saw. So the two board members who are the executives, right? They are voting executive members of a board members of a nonprofit who are getting salaries. In 2018, the executive Harry, and I'm blanking on their names, I apologize, and then his wife were Grammar, all right. They were paid $75,000 and $70,000 as their annual salaries. In 2019, that jumped to $175,000 and $170,000 as their salaries. Massive red flag for me that all of a sudden board members. In that same year, they had $3 million of donations in 2018 and $2 million in 2019. So their income went down, yet those salaries jumped significantly. So if they're staying at that same income level, say $2 million, and we are paying them $1.5 million, we are then supporting more than 40% of their budget. We are single-handedly keeping this organization alive, especially in that 990. In 2019, they showed assets in their retainable assets of only $165,000, right? You're running a $2 to $3 million budget, and you only have $165,000 as reserves. That, to me, is a sign of an organization that is struggling to survive. You know, and their grants were $1.3 million in government grants, $700,000 in other contributions. We can go through this. There's also $1 million in disqualified donations, right? So they got $1 million from things that they can't say where it came from. It's not donations. It's not tax exempt interest. These are all red flags for me when I read through 990s. So why did we choose this org? I really have no clue. And from a business model perspective, what I'm hearing that they're not delivering on everything they promised, it matches what I was able to analyze from their 990s. And so there are plenty of, one, we can absolutely hire internally, pay more salaries, benefits. As we heard on Monday and Tuesday, hiring internally would be a lot better, and doing even more training. And even so, you know, there are also plenty more organizations that if we are going to do restorative practices, whether it's restorative justice, conscious discipline with restorative practices, there are better ways to roll it out than force feed it to our high school and middle school students. I worked at granted it was a private school, but still I was at a school, and our assistant middle school principal was there with us, Kimberly was there with me at Pressman Academy. We started conscious discipline restorative practices. We rolled it out where a week of training for every staff member. It was getting them trained. And hearing Lauren Jagnell say she was never trained in these restorative practices, that's concerning. So all the staff were trained. All the students then were exposed to what is this new thing? And then there were training sessions for parents. So everyone was on board, and it began at the younger ages, right? So these younger ages understood, they were adapting. So when they got to middle school and high school, when these challenges started happening, they understood better what this system was, because most of our kids, right, even though the system may have been wrong, they are more understanding of consequences rather than restorative practices. So we need to educate our students on how does this work. We need to educate our staff, and we need to educate our families, because if they're having consequences at home but restorative justice in the classroom, there's going to be a disconnect, and it's not going to work. So we need if we're going to do this, we need a much more holistic approach, not just shoving it and saying this is our new system. So yeah, I mean, with all that said, I would cancel this contract yesterday if I could, and that is my strong recommendation that we give that to cabinet.
I will just say in response to Seth's comment about training. It does say on page 7 of the contract that part of what they are supposed to cover is staff professional development. I don't know if that has happened to this point, but considering their contract started in July, I would hope that it would have. So that is supposed to be covered as part of their payment. Okay, so okay, Kathy said they did have some PD from them at the high school. Okay, I mean, 2 sessions is better than nothing, but okay, so I'm going to take Trisha's comment because she's on the committee. Ray, you were under the impression that you were coming possibly as a union rep in place of Kathy, so I'm going to take your comment, and then after that, Melissa had submitted a comment to Robert ahead of time, so she will get 3 minutes. The rest of the public comments needed to be submitted to Robert by 6 p.m. today, so just so everyone knows how we are proceeding. So next will be Trisha, then Ray, and then Melissa.
And just FYI, I'm taking that requirement out of future meetings. It's left over from old Zoom meetings we used to do, so that'll be gone from future meetings.
Okay, it was in this meeting, so that's what we're following. But and just as a little comment too, I know that everybody wants to make comments in the chat, but the chat is also considered part of the meeting. So I know that everyone would like to comment on some of these things, but if the community members that are not on the committee could try to refrain from commenting in the chat, that would be helpful. Thank you. All right, Trisha.
I don't have so much to add. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that you know the ins and outs of nonprofits. You know, what's in the contract looks interesting and, you know, like a different way to reach kids, but there's a lot of red flags even to the uneducated. I mean, if they're doing 60 hours of services per week, how are they serving 400 kids in that? How are they even serving 20 kids really? And it doesn't seem like they are. And then it also says these costs don't include their facilities. And they have a facility on Washington Boulevard that I pass every day on my way to La Bayona. I'm not sure if we're separately paying for that, but also if it's a nonprofit and they're getting all these donations, why would we be paying $2.25 an hour? So I'm in agreement, I guess is all I'm going to say. But I wasn't sure what the agenda item was since it just said New Earth contract. Is it just to have this discussion, or are we? Because there was just some consensus that people wanted to get into it. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Yes, it was to bring it up. I asked Robert to add it to the agenda because it had come up as a huge concern at our previous meeting. And so I wanted to get a little more in depth so it could be on the agenda, or to have it on the agenda so we can get more in depth. All right, thank you. Go ahead, Ray.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was like, Kathy, I wasn't sure she was going to be here, but thank you for giving me this chance. So I wanted to shed, because one of the questions came up about the training, so I thought I could just shed a little bit of light on the training situation, just from the high school and the middle school perspective, because we did it together. There was in August, there was some PD in August when we first got introduced to it. Generally, we kind of do this rotating PD. It's like maybe an hour or something like that, and we did spend some time. It was basically, I shouldn't say it was PD. It was, and PD, I'm sorry, professional development is PD. I know we talk in acronyms, I'm sorry, all the time. So professional development, I'm very sorry about that. And we get that in August. And I would say it was more like an introduction, like, to the program. And it was really well done. I mean, you listen to it and this is the things we're going to do. We did have another one at the Robert Frost with the high school and middle school staff. But in my opinion, it was, and I'll say this was not professional development, because it was basically 2 hours of just talking to us. It was just kind of a lecture. And actually, a lot of the things were said were things that were said, back in August, like there was similar stories and things like that. So I would just say, from a high school teacher perspective, and I can probably speak for the middle school because they were there as well, it wasn't like what I would view as like professional development. Seth, thanks. I think that's really, you really did some digging there, and just definitely appreciate that about that information, because I'd heard those concerns. And yeah, it's true. It's, about 10 kids a day, and they usually have a list of about maybe 20 others where they say they may see them. And I'm really concerned about the cost, like what Robert said earlier. I mean, 600,000 is a lot. And then I was shocked that it jumps up to 1.5 million. I heard there's the capacity to see 800 kids, I think 4 at the middle, 4 at the high school. Maybe that's in year 2. I thought I read that someplace, but I agree with Kathy. I don't know if we have that many that need that kind of service. Definitely we have 30 or 40 or 50 kids that could use those kind of services. But for that kind of price, I'd like to see other ways we can do it. I'd love to see our own counselors. Years ago, we used to have a counselor at the high school. We had an at-risk counselor that dealt with behavior issues, and we had a counselor that dealt with attendance issues. Now, I know that was paid for on a grant, and we're talking, this is probably back in like 2006, 7, 8, around that time. And the grant did run out, especially when we had the economic crisis, but I would love to see something like that. These were counselors who didn't deal with a normal caseload. They didn't deal with the, like Kathy said, the A through Z, split up for the kids. They just dealt with those particular kinds of kids. I'd love to see something back, and maybe some more targeted training and restorative practices and things like that. I don't know if we have that capacity in our district to do that kind of training. So that's something sometimes you do have to go to the outside to do that, but definitely vet it a little bit more. Really concerned about 1.5 million and how that's going to be funded. And I don't know if that's going to ever just come out of general fund or where that's going to come from, but that's an alarmingly high number. So I just thought I'd give everyone a little bit of feedback and how we have done counselors in the past as well too. Thanks.
Thanks. All right, Melissa, there is Robert, are we following the 3-minute item from public comment?
I mean, I've always said I'm pretty informal, so whatever.
Okay. All right, it'll be Melissa and then Kathy.
I was going to say, I'm like Kathy, if she needs to go ahead of me as a member.
You were already in line and then she jumped in, so it's okay.
Okay. So I did email Robert a pretty long letter. What I didn't know at the time, so this is really concerning after listening to everyone's comments, in particular Seth's, that apparently the CCPD has a contract with New Earth as well. And that is it says starting in 2021, Culver City is partnering on a 2-year, $4.5 million program to improve New Earth's organization infrastructure to enhance alternatives to detention, placement, and incarceration. The program will allow New Earth organization to expand and improve a full array of wraparound services, programs for system involved and at promise youth by building out a robust mental health department, blah, 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 blah. So my concern is, it seems like we're getting fleeced by this company that didn't get properly vetted, that because really when a lot of these incidents that are serious and the ones that are probably seeing New Earth or supposed to be seeing New Earth are incidents of actual violence, which should be reported to CCPD, those kids should have just gone to New Earth via that route, that, the ones that should have been reported. So it seems like there's a lot of double dipping going on, a lot of overlap going on, which is a whole other level of concern. But from the beginning, and Robert can I'm sure can forward the letter to everyone, this company has been a nightmare. I have not heard one positive thing from any person whatsoever who in dealing with them. And I also passed their office is like half a block away from mine, and I'm just always so tempted to walk in and find out what's going on. But so far, I have not found anything online or anything when talking to people in person that is positive, that makes me feel comfortable, even putting our kids' mental health, let alone physical health, in with them. And if kids are being yanked out of class to deal with them, then they're also now still missing on education. I mean, the whole thing is just ludicrous that, we don't want kids to lose out on education, but we're pulling them out of class for that. I thought they were supposed to go after school to programs and stuff like that. So I also am really, really concerned about this New Earth experience. And I really hope that, you as a committee make the recommendation to cancel it. It seems like we should get our money back. But it's disturbing. This is a big wad of cash for something that seems like something else is really nefarious going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Kathy?
So Robert made a comment that we can bring this to the board by CBAC, or we could make it I guess I'm curious how we can do that. I do think it seems that we're all in agreement that there are some red flags about this company. So I would like to very much prioritize getting our Mara to speak to this
When is the next?
on the next possible board agenda, or Mara, I'm assuming it's Mara. And just to bring up that our concerns are, how was this approved? Why wasn't it brought before CBAC? And where is the data? And why aren't these our members? Why aren't these our staff employees? And finally, there's no world in which anyone at all, especially Robert, there's no world in which I'm okay with this being funded by Measure K. That's how Robert and I met, I think. So it's just, that's not what that money is for. I do know that Measure K has at-risk youth in there, so it's legal. I'm not saying it's not, but this is not what the community intended this money for. So I don't know if I glitched out in there, but I hope that makes sense. And if we could get an answer on how we can get this on, so we can give our feedback on this on the agenda at the very soonest possible time, that would be great.
I mean, it's kind of like we talked about with the last topic. There's really two ways. Mara could just show up for public comment and speak as the chairperson of CBAC and, offer a statement. Or I could try to create an information item where, just to be upfront, I would have to tell everybody, who's setting the agenda. I don't actually set the agenda. That, hey, CBAC wants to do an information item. This is what they want to discuss. And then it would be a more formal information item.
I'm okay with either. So what does the committee want to do?
The public comment can be as short as a minute or two. So I'm concerned about that. And
It's-
I don't
That's adding 2 minutes lately.
I don't think CBAC should have a 2-minute. I mean, we're supposed to be informing the budget. Like I'm uncomfortable with that.
Then it can be an information item. Then you don't have a time limit. No.
If we can't get the information item, I think our back,
Right.
our fallback can be, but it would be very sad if our board said, no, we're not going to hear from our
Right.
CBAC committee.
Well, but that's when I can speak as a community member.
And you can mention that.
Public, yes. And we've talked about when to represent ourselves as CBAC members, and I think this is a good time to do that if I need to. We had also talked about not wanting to wear out our welcome isn't the right term, but we want to save CBAC information items for what we consider to be maybe more important. This, I would say, is extremely important. This is why I wanted this on the agenda tonight. So
I'm sorry to jump, but if I could offer one thing, since this is the superintendent's committee, Mara, I would suggest after the meeting or whenever, emailing Mr. Tran, and you can CC me, and just say, following up on our CBAC meeting, we would love the opportunity to have a short information item presentation at an upcoming board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
you can even feel free, tell them what topics you want to talk about,
And I agree, Mara. We need to use it few and far between, but I agree with you that we all seem to agree on this one. And if it doesn't work, we can all speak at public, or whoever's comfortable can use public comment.
We have some arrows in our quiver. So yes, this does not have to be the only way to do it. Yeah. We're in agreement. Okay. Okay, sorry. We'll do Carolyn and then Trisha and then Debbie, and then I have some questions / comments.
I'm sorry, I should lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. All right, Trisha and then Debbie.
I just was Googling the founder. This doesn't change my opinion at all, but just so that everybody has all the info. I agree that the contract is terrible, and it sounds like from what Seth says, the foundation is not ideal. The founder himself, Dr. Harry Grammer, does have a lot of press about reaching at-risk youth. He's an Obama fellow. He's done a TED Talk. None of this makes him the greatest guy in the world, but just so when you approach your comments, you understand that there probably was some, I don't know what, momentum coming from that. It's not like a no-name guy that they pulled, from anywhere. So just adding that to the convo, but I'm still completely in agreement. The contract is lame, way too expensive, and obviously not working. So I'm in favor of canceling it, just trying to give you the info.
Thank you. Debbie.
So I was wondering whether or not, if the time limit you're concerned about when you make your presentation, I was wondering whether or not I could cede my time as union president to Mara and also Seth, because I think it would be worthwhile for Seth to present what his findings were about this nonprofit organization. And I can let them speak during my time, which is not limited.
As a backup plan,
Robert?
I think that would be a little suspect, just because you're specifically speaking during the employee union group time, and this wouldn't really be relevant to the, you would want to be ceding your time as a CBAC member, not as a union president. So I don't know, that might be a little,
Well, I
but
know
I don't know.
in
But,
previous board meetings, my concerns about this contract.
yeah, well, yeah, go for it. I mean, honestly, no one's probably going to say no at the moment.
All right, well, let's see how it goes, because I'd like Mara and Seth to both be part of the presentation, and I wouldn't want them to be cut off at 3 minutes before they had a chance.
I think there's a good chance we'll get an information item on the agenda. I don't imagine that could be a problem.
Okay. Just
It's
thought
been-
I'd offer.
It's been less than 3 minutes all the times that I've been there lately. so-
I know lately.
Okay.
But information items don't come up till 11:30, 12:30 in the morning. So that's
I'll
the other
drink
thing.
coffee if I have to. I just want to make a couple of things that I noticed in the contract. So on page 3, it says that they also cover therapy and mental health services. Are these not things that are covered by other services that we already have, like Sandy Siegel Youth Center and our own counselors? Like, I don't know why we're tasking yet another company to be doing something that we're already theoretically doing. So that. Also, they mention the flow class and the gardening, and I'm wondering if these are extracurricular activities, because not every student can get to every extracurricular activity. So I don't, that was a concern.
I think Kathy still has her hand up. Just FYI.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I had mentioned that I wanted to get in there, and then
Oh,
she raised her
okay.
hand. So yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kathy, you can speak now. Go ahead.
It's okay, Mara. I just wanted to clarify something. I'm not saying they suck. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we don't have any data. And I am saying that I did look back in my emails, and this is not a quote from Catherine Grasso, but kids were not getting pulled to our knowledge until January. So there is a question of what was going on September to January. We didn't start getting lists of, now we get a list. New Earth is pulling da, 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 da. And it's a list, I did check, it's a list of about 6 kids a day, 6 to 10, I would say. And those aren't 6 to 10 unique children. In any case, my thing is, I'm not going to say it's not working. I'm saying, where's the data? And I don't want fake data. I'm a science teacher. I want real data. I think we all seem to agree this is very suspicious and there are better ways to do it. But I'm also very careful to say, I think what Seth brought up is very important, but I'm also very careful to say, we can't say it's not working if we haven't given it a chance, but where's the data? So I just wanted to clarify that.
Jen?
Similarly, I definitely fully suspicious based on the financials that Seth shared, and I'm glad to add that to my knowledge. I would ask to have data, and I would want to know more, because anecdotally, I have heard about them in the community, and in the nonprofit world. I had read about their youth diversion program that was in collaboration with CCPD. So I guess I would also be interested in seeing that data and seeing what those outcomes look like before jumping to a further conclusion. Clearly it looks suspicious and seems like something. And then once Tricia mentioned who they are, a little bit more into who they are, it actually spikes my interest to know more, before saying, yay or nay on a recommendation one way or another.
Thank you. Tricia? Yep, shut your hand down. So I think basically what we're all saying is,
Sorry,
oh,
real quick. The billing is weird, because why would you bill in advance for your 225 hour rate? I mean, if you have an hourly rate, then you bill weekly the number of hours that you've provided the service, not 600,000 up front. That just seems weird. We should know you saw this amount of students for an hour each. That's, X hours, and that's your outrageous rate of 225, which definitely should include facilities. But I agree that, we probably should ask about the results before we completely blow our lid.
yeah, I would like to know what facilities covers. It's very vague. And yeah, what I was saying is I think we're not saying they're horrible. We're not saying they're great. We're just saying that what they are covering and what they are producing is not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily warrant the contract and the amount of money that they are being given based on those things. So, does that sum it up? Okay. Carolyn?
Just to be clear, the $600,000 was paid for in one lump sum to them for the time period of July through December. So I don't know what their invoice looked like or anything like that, but it did go out to them in a single lump sum.
I'd want to confirm that. It might have been an open PO to be billed against throughout the course of the year.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Okay. That would surprise me.
It was that
Okay.
it went out in one lump sum.
All right, I'll check.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're all saying, Kathy, is that there are better expenditures of that money. So, okay, yeah, so one way or another, I won't be speaking at the next meeting, which I believe is March 14th. So I'll mark that in my calendar. Okay.
Robert, can you let us know if we get that agenda item so that if
Oh,
we
sure.
don't, and
Yeah,
then
we'll
just let
know by
CBAC
Monday.
know. Okay, let CBAC know, and then if not, we can maybe coordinate making more than one public comment.
So am I emailing the superintendent independently of you asking him?
You know what? I'll do it. It's okay. I'll email him and CC you and just say CBAC would like an information item on the next meeting.
Sounds good.
I'll say with initial initial budget priorities and or something about New Earth. I'll figure out how to say it.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't want to, catch them by surprise with the New Earth thing.
Yeah. All right. So is everybody wrapped up on that item? Yes. Okay. New business. This has been brought up before, and I just want to reiterate it, that people, as committee members, all of us should be careful about how we are representing ourselves as members of this committee. That includes speaking at meetings and saying I'm a CBAC member, board meetings. That includes emails. I just think that if you are representing yourself as a CBAC member, you're speaking for all of us. And yes, that's coming up next, Kathy. Thank you. I don't want anyone to feel misrepresented in the same way that when I speak on behalf of CBAC, I'm representing the committee. And so I want to make sure that everyone understands that you can ask for information as an individual, and you can speak as the school board meetings as an individual, but we just all need to be careful about when and how we represent ourselves as members of this committee.
I have a tiny bit of pushback on that. I just want to put this out to the committee because I did speak at a board meeting and I did identify myself as a member of CBAC. I think it's important that we're members of CBAC. I don't think it means we're speaking for CBAC. And I think we can say, I'm a member of CBAC, I'm not speaking for the committee. It's like when I am a teacher, but I don't speak for the teachers union. So I'm happy to hear feedback on that. But it is important we get information in this meeting that other people don't have. And so
I don't think the way in which it's being used is, I don't think it's to get more, I don't think it should be used to get more information than if you're the average bear. Sorry. So I think any information that's being requested or any representation should come through the committee first. Because I don't want to be taken by surprise by having someone say, I heard that this person spoke at a school board meeting and they said they were a member of CBAC and they said blah, blah, blah. I just think it's a very fine line to walk.
got it.
And I'm not trying to be upset with you. I think we all need to follow the same rules, I guess is what I'm saying. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that if I have a concern I want to bring up, I'll talk to you about it in the future. But I do think being part of this committee is important. And I hear what you're saying. And I don't ever want to represent myself as CBAC because that's your role. I get that.
Well, I'm just, if people are going to be concerned with how I am representing the committee, then that has to cover everyone, not just me. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Seth and then Jen.
So I think what Mara is saying has resonance with us, and I fully hear the concerns and the concerns of not being able to present yourself as a member of CBAC. And I think in this community and these committees, we all know what our intentions are. I just worry about how the members of the community interpret that. And knowing that when I speak and say I'm a member of CBAC, the people I am trying to influence, right? Because if we're speaking at a meeting, we are trying to provide some sort of influence, hear it very differently and could rightly or wrongly attribute it that I am speaking on behalf of people that I don't necessarily have their permission at that moment to speak on behalf of. And it's very difficult to find that balance of how can I be myself, but also part of something bigger and larger than myself. And, because we're all individuals, we all have, I love the diversity and how much I learn in these meetings and how often my eyes are open to things I thought were true in my own mind that may not have been. But it also, when we present ourselves as such, we may unduly or inadvertently influence people one way or another.
Thanks. Jen?
I see a very clear difference between you providing a report on behalf of CBAC, where it's something that we have come to agree on for you to share, and a difference between you speaking and acknowledging yourself as a member, but not speaking on behalf of CBAC. And I don't think that we need to limit people's ability to identify their involvement in this group because we're worried about if somebody listening will understand the difference. If that is actually acknowledged, I'm a member, but I'm not speaking on behalf of, I don't think that that's a problem.
That's not what I'm talking about, though. That is fine, but there have been times where someone is speaking on behalf of CBAC.
And they said that outright. I am speaking on behalf of CBAC.
They said, I am a member of CBAC, and it went forward. There was also a request for information with the person saying, I am a member of CBAC. And I don't think that the information should be requested as if it is on behalf of CBAC. I think that is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say.
Okay. No, I'm glad I said this. I'm glad I said this then, Mara, because what I was hearing was you can't acknowledge yourself as CBAC. And I completely support Kathy speaking, standing up and speaking and identifying herself in all the many fabulous roles she plays. And I don't want her to not say she's not a member of CBAC because it might be misinterpreted that she's speaking on behalf of us. And I think that that's really important. So when you said what's good for the goose ain't good for the gander, I was like, wait a second, there's a difference when you stand up and say, I'm providing a CBAC report. That is different. And the same way that we want you to give the entire picture and not just a one-angled report, I would assume that somebody else needs to acknowledge that I am not speaking on behalf of CBAC, even though I'm a member.
Yeah, that's way different. And yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry if that was misinterpreted, but yeah, I mean, we talked about this early on where I said, the danger of wearing different hats is when you go to a meeting and you say, I am on the PTA, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the PTA. People might have that in their head from that point on. Oh, they're with the PTA. So we can't help what other people are thinking, but I think to represent ourselves on behalf of CBAC, even if it's not overtly said that way, I think we all need to just be careful about doing something independently that sounds like it's on behalf of CBAC. That's all I'm trying to say. Because we can always, anyone can go to a board meeting and make a public comment as a member of the community. So that's, yeah. So is that clear? Okay. Thank you.
So
Debbie?
it's not clear. You don't want me saying I'm a member of CBAC, but I'm not representing CBAC. You don't want me.
No, I'm not trying to squelch anyone. I'm just trying to say that people should not be speaking as if they are representing CBAC specifically. Saying that you're not there in the capacity of CBAC is different.
Okay, thank you. That's I understand that. Thank you.
Thanks. Debbie?
Okay, I guess I'm going to be odd man out on this because I think that when you introduce yourself as a member of CBAC and then say, but I'm not speaking as a member of CBAC, I think that's confusing to the people listening. And if you go to any of the Facebook pages, like Culver City Unofficial, Culver City Free for All, you can see that there are members of the community that don't care what you actually said. It's the way they perceive it and the way they want to repeat it to their people that will listen to what they have to say. So I do believe that we have to be extremely careful about the things that we say, how we represent ourselves, because the community doesn't always hear it in the way we're saying it. And I would bet dollars to donuts that somebody would hear Kathy or anybody else that says, I'm a member of CBAC, but I'm not representing CBAC. They would still interpret that as you're a member of CBAC and you must be speaking because you've heard something in a CBAC meeting and you're repeating what you've heard. So even if you're not representing yourself as speaking on behalf of CBAC, the fact that you've introduced yourself as a member who's speaking as an individual, it's going to have the same effect. And Kathy, with all due respect, you are so well known in this district as a teacher, as an advocate, as a go-getter, and somebody that takes no prisoners. I don't think that you have to introduce yourself as a member of CBAC who's not speaking on behalf of CBAC, because the name Catherine Grasso is such a well-known name. Just speak for yourself. You don't have to say anything else because people are going to stand up and listen as soon as you start talking. And I'll end right there.
I think your point, Debbie, is if you don't call attention to it, then people don't have to pay attention to it. So if you don't even mention that you're on CBAC, you can still speak as a community member. I'm not telling anyone not to do that. I'm just saying, please don't represent yourself as a member of CBAC specifically to get information or to speak on something.
I understand, but I think that we have to make sure that the way we represent ourselves to the community is so clear and so without question that they can't twist it and print it on Facebook. And especially when we're in a situation now where we've had people that have requested information under a Public Information Act and have been given thousands of emails from the district server that employees have written to each other. We're in a very scary situation right now.
That's coming from our group?
Not our group.
Now, people have gone to the district under the Public Information Act or whatever you call it, and have demanded to see all of the district emails in regards to certain subjects. And the district had to turn them over. So I'm just saying that we have to be very, very careful, all of us, not just employees, but community members, because you never know who's going to request public information next and what they're going to ask for. So I'm just saying, watch yourself.
Thank you. I mean, part of my point was this came from something that happened a long time ago where I spoke at a school board meeting as a parent, and I was asked something by a school board member, and I answered having to explain that I was on the PTA and that's how I knew something. But I didn't come as a PTA member, and that was twisted around, and my own PTA came to me and said, I heard you spoke badly about the PTA at the meeting last night, and that is not what I did. So yes, sometimes when you bring it up, it can be twisted. So I understand your point, Debbie. Thank you. Trisha?
Yeah, I agree with Debbie, although I think when I first was on this committee, I think the first board meeting after I did say I'm a member of CBAC, but not speaking on their behalf. But since then, and from what you've said, I've come to understand that I just don't think that's a good idea for all the reasons Seth and Debbie have mentioned. My intent in doing it was to, as I think Kathy mentioned, is to show that I have been paying attention, or that I've read I've seen budgets. But you can also just say that we're not seeing anything that's not public information, really. So you can also say, look, I've examined the budget, or I've looked at the New Earth contract, or whatever it is you've done in this committee, and just say that you've done it. You don't need to say I'm a member of CBAC to get that point across. It just takes a little more effort. But I agree. I mean, Kathy, your own voice speaking at a board meeting was put on a video, you know, that somebody was circulating around for who knows what reason, but they could easily, I mean, that's true of anything you say, but the more time, you know, if you're going to mention CBAC, they can easily edit that to say whatever they want about CBAC. So I agree with the caution in today's world.
Thank you, Tricia. In the interest of time, it's already 8:20, and I just want to wrap this up really quickly with our rankings and making sure that we're all on the same page. So we have the 4 main categories that we want to push to the top of the presentation or the list, or however we're looking at this, and then how do we want to go from there? 1 through 5, 1 through, I mean, did we redo the list so that there is a finite number of items on it now? Jen?
So yes, on sheet 2 of the CBAC budget suggestions, the ones that we discussed, and we lumped them in our discussion, but I pulled all the ones up that we were discussing. When you look at the remaining ones, I believe there are 14 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I don't think it's too much to ask for us to rank those 14, 1 through 14, 1 being the highest priority. But I'm open. That's just my suggestion to get the ball rolling in terms of how we move forward.
So that does not include the miscellaneous, correct?
It does include the miscellaneous. So there's 1 under aides, 3 under staff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 under student support, and 5 under miscellaneous.
Okay, because on my miscellaneous, I didn't even rank them because I felt that school-specific needs to support students and find out what they need isn't necessarily a budget item. I felt like that was kind of an action item for us to potentially do. So I don't know.
I thought that was very clearly a budget item, like giving schools discretionary funds. I remember Tricia presenting on both the school specific and also teacher specific needs, being able to provide, you know, some funds where teachers or schools, depending on which of those 2 items you're looking at, would be able to determine what it is they need.
When it says find out what they need, is that something that we are expecting the board to do as part of what we're recommending? Or is that something that we are supposed to do? That's why I was unclear about that.
That was
we've done survey. I can just clarify on that what they need. We've done survey after survey after survey. It's part of our bargaining process, and 1 and 2 are always salary and benefits, and the 3rd is class size. It's never different.
These 2 things, though, we're talking about, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, Kathy, I apologize. These were very much specific to, like, money to spend in the classroom, as opposed to what they need in a larger scale of their support, like supporting their employment, if that makes sense. So when we discussed this at the last 2 meetings, that's what that was, just for clarification here, because the other items were listed as what they were.
Yeah, I guess I don't really get turned down. I've worked in districts where I don't get paper, and I can order colored pencils and markers, and we don't really get turned down for that kind of thing. I'm not saying we shouldn't keep it. I'm just saying I can speak clearly. I mean, we have surveyed the entire staff. So again, I guess it's fine to keep it. It's just that it's not a district where we're turned down on that very often. And this year there was Measure K money that did go to the schools directly. I don't know if that'll continue.
Is that true for the elementary schools? Because our teachers don't get anything, or at least they
each elementary school got $100,000 from Measure K to spend.
Right, but our classrooms, I mean, each classroom has a wish list that includes glue sticks and scissors and pencils and all of that kind of stuff.
And what about field trips, or who knows what they would like to do? I mean, I think the point is to ask. I mean, if you don't agree with it, then you can rank it low.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to get clarification because to me, it didn't seem like it was in line with the way the other things were listed. It felt like something that we should be finding out, but not a specific item.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I'm just going to speak because I'm already speaking. I guess what I'm saying, and I'm not saying take it off. I get that it was brought up, but it wasn't brought up by the teaching staff. Like I can get Ray, I mean, I'm not going to say I can get him to share the surveys because they're private, but we literally survey every single solitary year, the entire staff on what their highest needs are. So when I come here saying I'm speaking for 400 teachers, it's not, again, without data. Like, if you asked a teacher, do you want a raise in salary and benefits or a glue stick? Yeah, they want the glue sticks. I'm not saying we should ignore that. Maybe that's a talk with the principals about why the $100,000 isn't being spent on glue sticks. But it is not a priority anyone is putting on our surveys.
Okay. I just thank you, Kathy, for your comments. I just want to get back to how we're ranking stuff, and I just brought this up because I was confused about whether that was included in the rankings. I didn't rank any of the miscellaneous items from before. So are we agreed that we're ranking them from 1 to 14 or however many we have?
I don't like that. I don't want to put salary or I liked Robert's 1 through 5, and what is most important is a 1 and what is least important is a 5, or vice versa.
Kathy, salary and
How do you pull
benefits
that
is no
out?
longer being 1 through 14. Those 7 on the top are being pulled out, and those are going to be, that's what we need. They're not ranked. It's what we need. And then what's below are what we want, and we're prioritizing those 1 to 14. So everything in the yellow there that you see is what we need.
So under aides, numbers 3 and 4, under staff, numbers 9 and 10, under student support, numbers 13, 14, and 16. Those are the items that we all agreed are top priority, correct?
Not 13.
We're looking, it depends on which sheet you're looking at.
Yeah, look at sheet 2. Everyone look at sheet
2,
2
it's
is
very
cleaner.
clear.
But that's what she's showing, right? I think.
Okay, no, I was looking at the wrong one.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I was showing sheet 2. She was talking from sheet 1.
Okay, showing the right one, talking the wrong one.
There
Right?
you go. This is 2.
I got it.
They're fighting over.
Yeah,
who's
I was looking at sheet 1. So
1 through 8.
but why is aides number 9? I don't.
the top 8, because
Those were categories that we
Yeah.
had originally put things under.
Okay, I got it.
that one really has changed to be support for inclusion program.
So yellow are the we need.
Yes.
Those are the top priorities above everything else.
And we can take out those headers if that helps. Just look at
Well,
the-
so we already got an
I wouldn't-
additional
I
HR
wouldn't take
position to support. That position exists. We just got, right, Robert, we have an additional HR to support onboarding that needs to go.
Okay, take that out.
You're talking about this one here that I'm highlighting.
As I
Additional HR
understand it,
position.
we hired for that.
Yeah, Robert's nodding. I think you can take that out.
All right, so we're down to 13.
Yeah, see that I have to go back to the original.
If I can clarify, since I'm the one that put the school specific needs, the reason it's worded that way because somebody was objecting to, I used school site council an example of how to find out what is needed, but that was maybe an erroneous way to term it. So I think you can take off find out what they need and just leave it as a school specific needs. Things that schools might asked for. I just think they should, there's an argument to be made that they could have a voice.
I still think we're off agenda topic here. We're back to talking about the actual items.
Right. I'm clarifying though,
How we're going to
Mara's
rank.
question about how it should be worded and if it's a legit item on the list.
Not that whether it's legit, we're just trying to make sure that we have the proper number of items.
Apples to apples.
Okay, so so number 10 got taken out, the onboarding position. Okay, so Kathy is not comfortable ranking these 1 to 14 or however many we have, and so are we going?
I'm okay. I'm okay now. I was on sheet 1.
Okay. So from sheet 2, are we comfortable ranking our preferences from 1 to 14?
Yes.
Or 13, however many it was. Sorry. Kathy, did you have a question or comment, or was your hand?
I have a question for Debbie. So increase maintenance staff to accomplish ongoing projects, just very quickly, so I can rank these because it's not my field. Are we short on maintenance staff that do those kinds of projects?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
We have a lot of vacancies that we're filling. I think there's 3 general maintenance vacancies, a painter, a plumber. So those are budgeted for. So take that into consideration.
Now, can I ask a question about that? Do the projects that need to be done require contractors, or could that be done by competent staff?
We do everything with our own staff that we can. Something like painting the
Okay.
entire high school and middle school this summer is contract work.
Okay.
But we're talking about just getting more of our own staff on hand.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification of if
Yeah.
it was applicable, because
Okay, so back to our rating system and page 2. Are we good with 1 through, I think it's 13 because we took the onboarding position out for the next meeting?
and is 1 the highest priority?
Yes.
Just bring our rankings, or is someone going to do a Google form? Just bring our rankings and we'll
Yes.
just vote. Okay.
Yeah, the next meeting will not be April. It will be, because that'll be during spring break, so it will be May 3rd.
Is there
So
any
I-
consideration of having a different meeting date for April? Could we still have an April meeting, but not that day?
We could, but I mean, traditionally, has there been a meeting added?
Sure, we can add meetings once in a while. I can't do over spring break. And again, the last day of spring break is my last day. So I'll have the superintendent or the interim jump in for you.
I just think Kathy was the one who raised the concern that sometimes decisions have already been made when you get to that May meeting. And so if we can present before the very last minute, it might be more helpful.
What is sorry, I have an analog calendar. What is the May?
April
the
12th.
May board meeting would be the 9th.
The second, whatever the second Tuesday is, but there's also one at the end of whatever the 4th Tuesday in April, there's a board meeting.
So if we met on the 3rd, the next board meeting after that would be May 9th.
Oh, yeah, you're in the
I
May.
think it's the 11th.
They're talking
No, it's
May.
May 9th. May 9th
Oh,
will be
May.
the board meeting.
Right. Sorry. I think there's one April 11th is what I'm saying.
No, April 11th is canceled. April
Okay.
25, there's a meeting.
Okay. So May 9th and May 23rd.
In May, yeah.
School board meetings, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And according to our bylaws, we're supposed to have this by May 15th, our recommendations. So that timeline works if we just keep the meeting, if we keep our regular CBAC meeting for May 3rd and we present at May 5th, or sorry, the May 9th meeting.
Well, I'm also gone. I think, what are we talking about? I'm gone for spring break. Were we talking about shifting it a day, like the 10th or something, or like having it after everybody's back? Or does that not work?
I think we're just thinking of skipping April and doing May 3rd.
That's what traditionally has been done. That's why I was asking if there had been a meeting added in April
Oh,
in
I
the
see.
past, but I can't speak to that because I don't
That
know
is the traditional pattern, but yes, on occasion there have been special meetings added.
So we could do a special meeting in the second half of April.
Yeah, after April 12th or April 19th, if we want to hold the Wednesdays. Knowing that this is one item of potential budget, I mean, not knowing what might be down the pipeline, I'm inclined to say, let's have a special meeting and just knock this out and not leave it to chance later. I know adding meetings takes away more of our time, but I'm pro, just get it done earlier in April.
What does everybody think about that?
Me too. April 12th.
I don't think I can do that week, but I could do the 19th or the 26th if we keep a Wednesday.
19 works for me.
I can do either of those, any of those.
I can make 19 work. 26 is better, but I can make 19 work.
Okay, so are we,
That's middle school. Well, I guess the meeting can still happen, but that's our open house that day.
oh, I have to be there. I can't do that then.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the 19th. Okay.
Meeting on the 26th doesn't get us to an earlier board meeting.
It doesn't have to be a Wednesday. We've just always done that historically.
Yeah, it's just
If we wait till the 26th, though, we're still presenting at the same May 9th meeting.
Yeah, it's only a week early.
Mm-hmm.
So you would want to have it before the board meeting that is the
25th.
April.
If you're trying to get on April 25, yeah, you'd want to meet the week before that.
well, I thought part of this was I thought part of this was to discuss. I didn't know that we were talking about moving up the presentation. I thought we were just trying to get all this all decided before that.
That's true. But I think it's just to give us as much runway as possible. I mean, if you have it the 26th, that doesn't really.
What about the 18th, doing it a Tuesday?
Tuesdays never work. They're
The school board meeting.
yeah, Tuesdays are tough for some of us.
Not that week, but yes. I understand days being tough.
I think I would still like to aim to present our recommendations at the May 9th meeting, because I think if the one before that is April 25th, I think then we're pushing everything up. And if we need a second meeting to finish discussing this, then at least we have the May 3rd meeting. So I would like to not make the presentation to the board until the May 9th meeting.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But I think what Seth was saying was, regardless of if that's when we're presenting, we may just need another meeting in there in case whatever else comes up that we want to also present at that meeting, I guess.
That's fine. So,
But fair point. I mean, we could have it the 26th or whatever's good for you, Mara.
or we can do Monday, the 17th. I know, I don't know if that's a city council meeting. I know there's always something going on. In the meantime,
I don't
Kathy,
think it's a council meeting. I can do the 17th.
okay.
There's hands up, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Kathy, did you have something?
I did. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh,
Sorry.
I do suggest next meeting, whatever we decide the next meeting is. I don't have my calendar. I'm sorry. Open house is coming up, so I don't know. And there's I have a bunch of meetings, so I will try to be there if you guys schedule a special meeting. But I do recommend we do a Google Doc at the next meeting, a Google form at the next meeting, because trying to all rank, going around being like, oh, I'm number one, this is number two, that's going to drive us all crazy. I can make the Google form if people are shy to do that. I'm happy to help that way, but we can rank, it's anonymous, it'll rank everything for us. I do think we should do that.
Okay.
Even if we do the form during the meeting, that's fine.
Agreed.
But trying to put it all in a Google Doc is not ridiculous. That's not reasonable.
Let technology do the math for us.
Yeah. Also, you guys, I am in 2 hours later than you are. So even though this is not as late as most board meetings, I've got to check out.
We're wrapping up. If you understand how we're doing the rankings, then that is it.
1 through 14, next meeting, preferably Google form, right?
Yeah, so yeah, April 17th.
Who's making the Google Doc? You, Catherine?
I can make a Google form. I can do that. Is anyone Google Forms like that's their favorite thing to do? Anybody? I can do it if no one else wants. So just so I know what I'm making, I'm putting everything on for sheet 2, starting with support for inclusion, down through improving breakfast and lunch to be more sustainable and healthy, which, hey, by the way, I'm at a Green Educators Conference, so I have lots to say about that. But I'm putting all of those on a ranking Google Doc, correct? That's what I'm doing.
Correct.
A Google form. I'm happy to do that. But please let me know when the next meeting is, when you guys decide.
Okay.
Also, Robert, we will miss you. Genuinely. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch, Kathy.
You'll
for
hear
sure.
from me, don't worry. Probably tomorrow about the air conditioning. Just kidding. All right. Sorry guys, I gotta peace out. Thank you.
Bye, Kathy.
Thanks for coming. Good night. Debbie, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, rather than sitting here and going over everybody's calendars, can we do some kind of a survey thing where we can just weigh in on the days that were available? I think all of us have had very long days and, we're already past our end time. It's at 8:41. So can we do some kind of a survey that we can take so that we can all weigh in after we've looked at our calendars about what we're available to do as far as a special meeting goes?
What's up?
I think we just said the same thing. Either one of us could set up a doodle and just send it out and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you could do that, Seth, that would be fabulous.
Carolyn?
You asking me?
Yep, I saw your hand raised.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I was just getting some emails from the people who are watching this, and they can't chat. So they just want to know at the end of the meeting, where and when will this video be posted? Because some of them came in pretty late.
The video is not posted.
We use the video to get minutes. This video for CBAC is not posted.
Thank you.
And I don't think anybody has permission to post it or parts of it, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we don't historically record these. All right, so the doodle poll will be sent out for the next meeting, which will be sometime in April, and we have homework. And Robert, thank you for your input and all this, and you're gonna miss out seeing this to its conclusion, but
I know, I was thinking maybe I'll have to stop back in and check it out as a visitor.
yeah, you can watch the recording of the board meeting. That way you can fast forward through stuff if you don't
Yeah,
want
right.
to hear everything, so.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, everyone. I'm adjourning the meeting at
Good
8:43
evening.
p.m. What was that?
Have a good evening.